Okay, everyone. In this video, I'm going to show you how to use Zapier to send contact information that you gathered in ClickFunnels into MailChimp using Zapier. Now, this is a video that stacks on things that you've learned in previous videos. So if you haven't learned yet or watched the video how to create an opt-in form, go back to that video, as well as the basics of Zapier and the basics of MailChimp. So there's basically three types of videos that you're going to want to watch as prerequisites to this. Again, this stuff isn't complicated, but if you just jump right into here, I'm going to be skipping over some of the other steps that you would have learned in the other videos and assuming that you know the basics and foundation. So that's just the pre-comments of this video. And with that said, let's get started. So we created a form originally in ClickFunnels, just this test building a form. And we're going to have three screens open, which one is ClickFunnels, two is going to be your Zapier account, and three is going to be your MailChimp account. So let's do a preview real quick here. And to see in this form, we want to capture name, email, and phone number. And our goal is to put that information when someone enters this in, is to send it over to MailChimp. And again, we're going to do that via Zapier. So first things first, we go into MailChimp and we need a list to send it into. In this example, I'm just using testing and training. And before we can actually test to see if any of this works, we have to define in MailChimp what these fields are so that MailChimp knows, when a name is entered or a phone number or email is entered, where is that information going in MailChimp? We're going to define that. So we go to settings in MailChimp and go to list fields and merge tags. Click that. Now, I'm going to delete these just so you see from scratch. I did this before. So your screen may very well look like this. And so I want you to start out like this. If you have some predefined fields, no problem. I just want you to be able to know exactly how to create these in case your screen does start with just an email address. Now, an email address is the bare minimum that MailChimp requires, when someone opts in. Makes sense, but we're going to add in those other fields. So the first thing we're doing, we need a name. So how are we going to have that defined in MailChimp? Well, let's go to add a field, and we just go to text. You click text, we're just going to change the title in there to name. And to keep this simple, we're going to also change this to name as well, basically just copying what you have in this field. We'll talk about this at another video. For these, put this tag in your comment. Just keep it the same as that for now. And we also need, let's go back here, we need a phone number. So let's look at, and we don't have to do save changes yet. Let's do add field. And you have number and phone number. Now, don't make the mistake. You might want to click number, but number will put like commas and it won't look at it like a real number or like a phone number. You do want to do phone number. However, I do recommend doing the international one as opposed to this one with the parentheses and dashes, because sometimes your information won't come over if it wasn't entered exactly right, like with the dashes here. So you don't want to have any constraints for your prospects opting in. You want to let them, if they want to put all numbers, that's fine. If they want to put dashes, that's fine, or the parentheses around the area code, that's fine as well. You don't want to constrain them. So let's leave it at international because it doesn't prohibit anything. You can put in those numbers as they choose. And we're also going to change this title to phone. And again, we're just going to make it simple and go phone over here. So now our fields are defined. We need to save changes. And now we're perfect. So it doesn't matter if they're out of order from our opt-in page. That's no problem at all. But we have name, email, and phone. We have name, email, and phone. So now they're set up. So anything captured here can seamlessly go over here once we create the Zap, which is the next step in the process. So we're going to come into our Zapier account here. We're going to click Make Zap. Now, again, if you haven't learned the foundations, I'm assuming you know the difference between trigger and action, and I defined that in another video. Please go back and watch that video if you have not at this point. But what we're going to do now is set our trigger, which our trigger is when someone opts in here into this ClickFunnels page to add them into MailChimp, which is the action. So let's go to our trigger, choose the app. ClickFunnels is our app for the trigger. We're going to new activity, new contact activity, because that's when someone opts in. Press save. Now I know I have a couple accounts connected. You probably only have one. Just click your ClickFunnels account or the correct one. And now we have to tell Zapier, what funnel do I want this to trigger off of, and even what funnel step. So to start out, you click this drop down, and it's going to actually be communicating with ClickFunnels. And I just know that whenever you create a new funnel, it's all the way at the bottom. And I have a lot of funnels, as you can see, but there's test building a form, and you can see that my title, test building a form. Now you need to also define which step that this is going to trigger off of. And this funnel, we have an opt-in and thank you. Click back over here, opt-in and thank you. You need to tell Zapier, when am I firing this? When am I triggering this? Which is off the opt-in page, right? Because that's where people are entering their information. So you're going to click opt-in. You're going to click continue. And then you'll be forced to click this fetch and continue. Now you'll see a successful test here. Now, if you just created a funnel and haven't tested it yet, you might get an error message here. That's no problem. There'll be a little icon that says to skip and move on, or something along those lines, like skip and proceed. You can always skip that step. It's not very important in that regard. And click continue. So now our trigger is set up. We're all good there. And Zapier now knows for this specific Zap it's going to trigger when anybody opts in on that page. But now we need an action. Once it triggers, what do we want it to do? Which is send the subscriber into MailChimp. So we're going to now go into the action for choose app and click MailChimp. We're going to do add and update subscriber and do save and continue. And I just know, again, I have a couple accounts connected. You probably only have one. Select your appropriate one. And now we actually get to define what comes over, which is why it was important that we set those fields up before in MailChimp. So you're going to have to pick a list. Now in my account, I only have one list. If you have multiple lists, make sure you select the correct one. And you're required to pick the email or bring over the email. And that's at the bare minimum to bring over, again, because MailChimp requires that. And so we're going to go and just select, click this drop down, I apologize. And this is pulling information from ClickFunnels through the Zap. And so we're just clicking that email. Oop, we don't need two of them there, just need one. Then the double opt-in section, I always select no. I don't recommend it. And update existing, I keep as yes. Now you can have it select no. It's all up to the user. I like to have it because I like to have the most up-to-date information in my accounts. So if someone's opting into multiple funnels, but you don't have to, I just recommend keep it yes for now. And that's what we're going to use for this example. We're not going to do anything right now with groups. That'll be a different video. But you see, as of right now, the only information that's going to come over is the email of the subscriber, and that's it. But we still want to have the name and the phone number, and that's important for us. So we need to actually come to this refresh fields, and you'll see that our name and phone number appeared because we created them originally here, name and phone number. Email was already pre-populated, but those were the two that we defined. So we want to click the drop down though and say, what do we want to put in this name field? Well, we want name, okay? And that comes from ClickFunnels, same as phone number. If we do the drop down here, you'll click phone. You'll see a lot of other options, things that you're never going to need, but go ahead and select phone and do continue. Then this is just basically giving a summary of what you're doing or how you set your Zap up. I always select skip test instead of send test to MailChimp. I find that this clutters up your MailChimp account with test data. We're going to test it a different way. So I'm going to suggest skipping test, testing was skipped. You can do it anytime and go to finish. Now our Zap's completed. We just have to name it and turn it on. So in this one, I'm just going to define it as CF for ClickFunnels to MC. We'll just do testing now, just so we know exactly which one this is. And do not forget to turn this on. This is one of the most common mistakes I see, is that people go through, take the time to set this up, they forget to turn it on, then they wonder why it's not working. So make sure it's turned on, and you'll see that it will be turned green. So you're all set up there. And you can also now go to your dashboard, and you'll see that anything in green here is what's turned on. Any drafts are things that you don't have on, or if I turned any of these off. So we're all set up and ready to test now. We have our field set up in MailChimp. We created our Zap to actually communicate and be the middleman, for lack of a better term, between ClickFunnels and MailChimp. And now all we have to do is go through and test. So if you watch the other video, there's some examples of how to actually test that I recommend, and it's by going to this preview page, right-clicking and selecting incognito window. And this will pull this up. Now this is a test I did before, and let's just get rid of this right now, all this information. And let's go ahead and just call this Tom Test. That'll be our name for this person. And for email, I do recommend using a real email address because if you put in a fake one, Zapier or MailChimp will scrub those emails, and it makes it difficult to delete them after the fact. They actually make it real difficult, and you actually want to be able to test real email addresses in the future. So that's kind of a pro tip there. Also, if you only have 1 or 2 email addresses, that's fine. You don't need to go out there and create a bunch of new ones. You can actually, I'm going to show you this tip here, is that I have this greg.wood.bzw. This is w@gmail.com. This is just one of my testing accounts. But if you go ahead and do a plus right before your @ symbol, and I'm just going to do this Zap test 1. You can put in anything that you want here to define it, like what you're testing. And MailChimp or a variety of email marketing softwares will actually view this as a new email address, but emails will actually go to, greg.wood@bzw or .bzw@gmail or whatever your real Gmail is. So you don't have to continue creating new email addresses. Again, a little pro tip there. I'm just going to put in a fake number here, 555-123-4567. So we entered in our information, and we're going to go click to sign up. And remember that we did Tom Test, this email and this phone number. Just take a mental note so you can see that all that came over. And this was our thank you page. Again, we just did this for an example, but this worked. So now you need to know, hey, how do I know if this Zap actually worked? And there's a couple options now. You can go to your task history, and you'll be able to see all Zaps that happen. Now, these were different tests I've done, but again, it's from different Zaps. If you want to actually go to the specific Zap and see exactly, if you have multiple Zaps, you don't want to mix them up, just go into the Zap and click this drop-down arrow and do task history. Now, even though this says instant, sometimes it can take, it can be very instantaneous, or it can take a couple minutes, so don't freak out. And if you don't see that information come over right away, let's go check this. So testing now. So this one actually did work right away, very quickly, and it worked. So, and then you see a success. If it failed, you'll see a big X or stopped, and you'll just dig into it and see why it failed. But this one's successful. So now let's go over if this worked right. We'll first come over here to contacts, and we should see Tom Test, which we do. And this is in ClickFunnels. Now we're in MailChimp. Let's go ahead and click lists. And we have testing and training, and we're going to see our subscribers. Boom. Tom Test, the phone number, and so the name, email, and phone number is all over there in MailChimp. So it was successful, it worked, and you just learned how to do your first Zap, potentially, going from ClickFunnels to MailChimp using Zapier. Hope you learned a lot from this video. Let us know if you have any questions, and have fun playing around with it.